Hey team, Jesse Dale, macro missionary. What is our definition of the perfect human diet? What do we consider when I say I am a macro missionary? What is our tribe striving for? And what do we figure our ethos is? What is the character of our nutrition plan? So first, it would be an energy-rich, anti-inflammatory approach where we feel as good as we look naked and we are performing to our potential. So let's dissect that and talk about protein, carbohydrates, and fats and how they pertain and fit into that definition. So it would be a higher protein approach. Why would it be higher protein? Protein is very thermogenic, but again, we're not talking about fat loss here necessarily, we're talking about anti-inflammatory. So let's dive into the anti-inflammatory part of protein. High in CLA, which tends to be what we are deficient in, and protein is going to be a great carrier for our omega-3 fatty acids, particularly in our cold water and ocean and water dwelling animals, so our fish and so forth. We're also going to get omega-3s from other places, which we'll talk to in a bit. But a lot of your cold water fish are going to be the source of that anti-inflammatory omega-3. Protein also can double up through the process of gluconeogenesis as a carbohydrate. So not only is it delivering us those anti-inflammatory properties, but it's also doubling up as an energy source through gluconeogenesis when needed. So we have a win-win there. Second, our ethos would be moderate fat. Moderate fat. So if you look at higher protein, maybe 40%, these are arbitrary, but just to give you a mind frame or a model, so 40%, and maybe 30% of that would be dietary fat. Again, for the same reasons of the higher protein, a lot of those omega-3 rich fish, such as salmon, are going to carry dietary fat along with them. So some other dietary fats that would be more anti-inflammatory would be your poly and monounsaturated fats, your avocado oil, your olive oil, and so forth. Chia seed oil. Okay, so there's several other dietary fats that are going to have those anti-inflammatory properties. So we'll move on to carbohydrates. Lower carbohydrates. So we're higher in protein, moderate in fat, and we're lower in carbohydrates. Why would we be lower in carbohydrates? Carbohydrates tend to have a lot of inflammatory properties to them, much of which because of what we did through agriculture to them. We have adulterated that macronutrient the most. Sure, has animal proteins gone through a lot of processing and corn feeding and so forth? Yes, but it perils in the comparison to our dietary carbohydrate. We just live in a sugar society, and the dietary carbohydrate has been manipulated probably the most. So meaning it's tough to find a high amount of dietary carbohydrates. If we did a high carb approach, it'd be tough to satisfy a high amount of calories with low inflammation with the dietary carbohydrates that we have available to us today. So going into the EPA, DHA, and ALA, the fish is a great source of your EPA and DHA, a great source of that third omega-3 fatty acid that we do get from carbohydrates would be ALA. And you're gonna find that in Brussels sprouts, broccoli, you're gonna find that into spinach, kale, and a lot of your other green leafy vegetables are very high in ALA. So our ethos, our tribe mentality would be to gravitate towards those carbohydrates. So let's talk about calories. How many calories would we consume? What is our tribe mentality on calories? We want to eat the appropriate amount of calories to provide our desired look, feel and perform our best while improving quality of life. So if we have too much excess stored calories on our frames, our quality of life is not going to be optimized. We're going to have joint pain that in itself would cause inflammation and so forth. So we want to eat to our desired look, which may vary per person, but also to have a healthy internal physique. So the third part of what we talked about, while enjoying the flavor of life. So let me repeat the whole thing again. We believe as a tribe in an energy-rich, anti-inflammatory approach where we feel as good as we look naked and perform to our potential while enjoying the flavor of life. So we talked about that being high in omega-3 fatty acids, higher protein, moderate fat, lower carbohydrates. We talked about what sources of carbohydrates, what sources of protein, and what sources of dietary fat. Now let's get into the last part of that, enjoying the flavor of life. Once our needs are met, our inflammation is balanced, we're in a healthy place, then with the leftover calories that we have, we believe in filling that minority of calories in with tribe-like foods that we love. That could be foods that were maybe given to us from grandma. That could be maybe foods of celebration. That could maybe be foods of joy or a toast at a wedding. We do not alienate foods any more than we would alienate someone at a family get-together. We all have that one uncle, bad news Bob, who, we love him to death, but we just know he's always going to have the negative to say around Thanksgiving. Well, what do? Is we balance him out with great news Gertrude. Okay, so we gave Uncle Bob his love. We take all the good, we bring him up, we lift him up. We don't kick him out, we don't alienate him, we don't say he's bad and he's not welcome here, but we definitely balance him out. So that's exactly what we're doing by having the minority of those calories that we have left over after our needs have been met and enjoying life, living life. For me, living life is taking the minority of those calories and maybe having a bourbon or maybe having some pizza or sushi or whatever it might be that, yes, might have some inflammatory properties, but I know that because the majority of my calories has been anti-inflammatory, it can balance that out. So hopefully this makes sense. If you're willing to buy into this tribe and feel the abundance of energy, send us a message. We'd love to help out. We'd love to share and tell you more.